Welcome. In front of me I have the brand new OPPO Find N2 Flip, and today I will go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this device. So anyway, right off the bat I'm going to mention that OPPO did not sponsor this in any kind of way, and whatever the opinions here I will have for this device are just strictly my own. They will not be reviewed by OPPO in any kind of way, so yeah. Anyway, I just pop it straight open. I do have to say right off the box, the packaging right here is pretty nice. It just kind of presents this device in a really nice way, making it seem super premium, and that's clean. When you open it up, it lifts it up. So just to kind of show it from a perspective or side perspective, you can see that it kind of lifts this up. Looks really nice, presents the device in a really nice way, though kind of be nice if it stays open. So I just have to hold it apparently. Anyway, I'm gonna take out the device for now. Below that we have a cable charger. So the charger is 67 watts, pretty nice. And we have a cable. Here we look like we have just some paperwork. Oh, not just paperwork. Just holding it. There we go. As you can see, nothing else in here. So we have our little case. Interestingly enough, it doesn't have any like sticky sides to it. If you ever use the folding device, most of the cases for them have some kind of stickers or like some dual, side tape. So when you put it on, it just kind of sticks, so it won't slide off, which this one, interestingly enough, does not have such a thing. Maybe the other side will? Nope, this one doesn't have anything either. So they might have gone and just made it so the device actually holds onto this in some kind of way. We'll see in a second. Then here we get some paperwork. We actually also have inclusion for this little guy. It's a Type A to Type C conversion, so you can plug in a normal USB, like for instance something like this, to this, and then connect it to your phone. It's a pretty neat accessory that might come useful several times throughout, so that's really nice. I have some little OPPO something. I have a quick guide and just more paperwork, so I'm gonna throw that to the side. Looks like that's all. Again, I really like the packaging right here. Really nice and premium. That's a nice back. Okay, so let's turn it on. And geez, I cannot see the crease whatsoever. Yeah, this is like not visible at all. This crease is the least visible crease I have come across so far. Even dragging my finger over it, I cannot tell that it's there. I'm pointing this out because actually folding devices, even though a lot of people tend to claim you don't notice it, as a person that has used a folding phone for the past half a year, I can tell you, you do notice it, and it does at times just get so annoying that it's to the point that it's unacceptable for the devices that cost that much. Now here, this is a device that is obviously at a flagship price, but it's not like egregious flagship price like Samsung would price it. it is competing with Samsung Z Flip, I would say. The price is $999 US, so it's basically the same thing as the Z Flip 4. So yeah, but one thing that you'll probably see right off the bat is the cover display. This thing is huge. So let me quickly go through the setup just so you can actually see this in action. Now, while I'm going to the setup, I'm going to quickly mention the inside display right here. So this is a 6.8-inch display. It's a foldable LTPO AMOLED display, 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10 Plus certification, and a peak brightness of 1600 nits. Obviously, one of the better displays right here. It will look gorgeous no matter what you do. And when it comes down to the cover display, it's an AMOLED display, Cornell Glass 5, 3.26-inch display with a 382 pixels by 720 pixels, putting it at a density of 250 pixels per inch. While this one right here has 86.4% screen to body ratio with 403 pixels per inch with a resolution of 1080p by 2520. So again, inside display really nice, and you can actually I don't think the camera does it justice, but looking at this right now in person, this looks so good. So yeah, I do really like the display right here. It looks really nice. Now, let's see how this looks like at the cover. Ooh, that's clean too. You can see this display right here is pretty sizable. Let's see how to actually use it. I have not interacted with this device before, so I have no clue what I can do here. Okay, so it looks like we have pages. Unfortunately, in this case, it looks like it's fairly limited in terms of what you can do on the cover display, which is a little bit of a shame. They could have just made it be much better. Do have couple. Okay, so we do have couple things that actually, now that I agreed to some terms and services, we have a camera mode right here with a really nicely presented 3 options. We have portrait, photo, and a video. We have our just typical screen. Now, one thing to also keep in mind is, I don't know if it's advertised, but this, as you can see, will allow you to hold the device at any angle. So you can use it as a tripod, kind of like you can do with a Z Flip 4 and a folding from Samsung. It's very similar, and as you can see, it holds pretty. After a point, it does kind of flop open, and that is about somewhere right here where it just flops open. But anything from like 90, obviously lower, it's pretty good. So yeah, now let's quickly go over the specs right here. I'll get those really quickly out of the way. So we are looking at a, let me just quickly read it off the page. Now I'm going to mention I'm going to start by mentioning there's 2 versions of this device. So we have, or maybe more than 2. So the one that I have right here is the lowest end model with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. You can go to 12 gigs of RAM, 256 storage, and 512 gigs of storage with 16 gigs of RAM. All of them running at UFS 3.1. So not necessarily the fastest storage that I can possibly get right now, but still pretty good. Now to run down the specs. Camera wise, we are looking at a the back cameras are 50 megapixel wide sensor f1.8, then 8 megapixel ultra wide f2.2. We can record at 4K 30 frames, 1080p 3060, and slow motion at 240. Then inside camera, on right here, that's a 32 megapixels wide sensor f2.4. And you can record with it at 1080p 30 frames. And then moving on further, a battery, 4300 mAh battery, Dimensity 9000 plus processor. If you're wondering how powerful this processor is, it is a little bit more powerful than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Now we are right now on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which will be more powerful than this, but it's obviously you get some trade-offs right here, so you might not have as powerful processor, but it is, I believe, a little bit more power efficient, and obviously you get that gorgeous display with no crease whatsoever. I want to point that out, that this crease is basically not visible at all. As you can see, you cannot really tell, even when the light reflects off of it. It's barely visible when it reflects off of it. And looking at it just at any angle, I genuinely cannot tell that it's there. It is just a little bit like a different discoloration, I guess I would describe it, and apart from that, it's just fantastic. Now moving on down the list to other parameters, we have a side-mounted fingerprint sensor. We have a 44-watt charging, which they advertise that the device will be charged to 50% in 23 minutes, and that's about all the worth mentioning specs, to be honest. So yeah, pretty nice spec list right here for the price. If you want a really small device that just folds, and it folds also flat, where there is no crease between, as you can see, this is a really nice device. Technically it's a second attempt at folding devices from OPPO, or third, depending on how you look at it, but it's the first one that is coming to globally. Their previous attempt were the OPPO Find N, and that was a more of this kind of attempt at a device, so a bigger form factor, though it was still smaller than the Galaxy Fold. This is the Fold 4. It was significantly smaller than this, and it was their first attempt, and it was also, in my opinion, a really good attempt. And now I haven't actually tested the OPPO Find N, or Fold N, I think it was called exactly, but just as looking at other videos, it looked very interesting to me, though like I said, it was not released onto the global market. It was China only. This is global. There's also a OPPO guess Fold N or Find N2, which is again a bigger form factor folding device, but again it's only China at the moment. Hopefully it will come to Europe and rest of the world, because it is, as you can see, this phone, as the first one of a flip kind of design, is really nice. It's a well-polished device, feels premium in hand, it has gorgeous displays, a competitive price tag to Samsung's devices, and honestly I think as a first phone like this that is released from OPPO on the global market, this should be doing a really good job at rivaling Samsung and probably even outperforming it. Now, I went over the specs and the price tag. I want to also just give a bit of a comparison to what Samsung offers and why I would think that this, or OPPO's first release of the device globally, has done a significantly better job at trying to entice people to go for such a device than Samsung did. So number one, we actually have things like this. So this is a case that comes provided with the device, and actually let's put it on. I want to see how it fits onto this device. And there we go. Yep, that holds pretty well. It's not sliding off of it like I was expecting it to. I mean, this is basically being held by cameras, but the bottom, there we go, if I pull it really hard, it does come off. But logically, you won't be, this is not really sliding off easily. I could just grab it and yank it off, obviously, but as a case that is not being held by any kind of adhesive, it's doing pretty good job. So yeah, now, like I wanted to mention and want to continue this, we do have a case included with the device. We have a charger included with the device, cable, that's more typical, and we have a arguably really nice presentation of this device just straight off the box. It's a nice thing to kind of like experience unboxing. Something that I cannot say about Samsung, which in this case would be their main competitor. So Samsung, even though they were first on the market with their folding devices like these, let's just kind of put these two devices side by side. Now I know that this isn't necessarily the best comparison right here, but it will still stick. We can even just pretend that this is the Flip, or yeah, the Z Flip 4 instead of the Fold 4. So price-wise, they're basically the same. In terms of what comes in the box is the phone, the cable, and that's it. Now here we get the case, we get also a charger, and we get a really premium feeling on just packaging. Something that you don't get with Samsung, even though, for instance, this device gets the same treatment as the Flip 4 and it costs nearly double the price. So that's a big L for Samsung, something that OPPO as a first release just went all out, and it's a nice thing to see. It shows. And yeah, it's honestly a really nice device. I keep gushing about it. It's the first time that I'm holding this, looking at it, and it looks gorgeous. Now, I just want to also add a little bit of a comparison for everybody who might be interested. Just lock the device. I'm gonna also clean it because it's disgusting. One of the downsides of a folding device is that when you fold it, your pocket don't really clean your display, so they come smudged up really easily. But you can see this crease right here is egregious. Now compare this to this, and there is virtually no crease visible. It does deflect the light a little bit differently, as you can probably see, but this, you can actually see the crease and feel it when your finger drags over it. I cannot tell that there is a crease. You can tell that there's some hinges under it when I press it a little bit harder, but in terms of just like dragging my finger, it feels flat, which is something that you really want from a folding device. So they did a really good job right here. Now anyway, with this being said, I just want to finish that off and give like positives and negatives of this device. So I'm gonna just focus on, in terms of negatives, about just the design or like the folding portion of it, because those will be the biggest drawbacks of such a device. So positive wise, it's a fairly competitive device, comes decked out with all accessories in the box, as you've seen, and they're also pretty good with a 67 watt charger, even though this device charges a little bit slower. We have a decent battery size right here, decent specs that you can get. Now the biggest probably like nice features of this device would be the inside display. It is really nice looking. The colors and just how the images look like on it, just so good. And second one, the cover display is huge, and same treatment, it looks stunning. Then the design of this device also, with the glass front and back, with this frosted kind of frosted feel to it, or however you want to call this, looks really nice. So this looks and feels nice to touch. Really like it. Clean design, obviously. Cameras, I have no idea. I haven't tested them out. We have only a dual camera setup at the front, I guess that would be considered. And the big one, the main one, is the 50 megapixel. Should be good enough, though obviously it will fall behind without even checking it when it comes onto other flagship devices. That's just kind of the nature of folding devices. There's less space to cram better cameras here. Now moving on to the kind of a crappy side of this would be the folding aspect of this device. Now obviously it's nice that you can fold it. It becomes a little bit smaller. Personally, to me that is In terms of this kind of size, I don't really care that much, personal opinion, because it is already folding devices like that. When you put in a pocket, they don't really take that much space. Clamshell ones just get double thickness. They were fitting in a pocket before, they still can fit now, at least for me. So to me, clamshell is kind of redundant. I prefer a little bit bigger devices when they fold. Those are more appealing to me. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because when you have a clamshell device like this one, you get the typical form factor of a phone with mechanical components that can break over time. And the display right here that you can see, this little cover right here, is obviously prone to scratches and any kind of dents and damages, significantly easier than any kind of glass display would be. So I could take my fingernail, drag it over, and it will stay there. You will see where I dragged my fingernail over that display. Now obviously you also have the benefit of folding it and having the device a little bit more protected, but if something gets in there, something a little bit bigger than you might want, and you clamp that thing together, this might actually break the display. So obviously you don't want to keep anything between these two displays when you're folding them down, because that could just potentially damage your display. So that's one thing. And just to kind of show that with my device that I've been using for half a year, it's almost pristine, almost. But I did have it once flop onto my keyboard, kind of like this, because my keyboard has a little bit of like a stand, so I can just connect it Bluetooth onto my device, and it just flopped onto the keyboard, and it made this little dent right here. It didn't actually damage anything display-wise, but it did damage the protective film that is on here, and quite possibly could have also made a little bit of a dent into the display below that. I have no clue. That's another thing. The display comes with a protective layer, so does this one. This, at least layer here, I give it 1 more month before it will start peeling off. It already starts to get some like lift up on the edges right here and here, and it's been about half a year now. It's honestly what I was expecting. So yeah, I presume that after 1 more month or 2, it will start to peel off completely, and I'll need to completely get rid of it because it will be just disgusting. Here we do have also some kind of protective layer. It's much closer to the edge, but I assume over time this will start peeling off as well, giving it that same kind of effect where air just starts to get under here, and obviously that's not something that you want. And once you peel that off, your device or display right here will be even less protected than it already is. It's a fragile display. Without this little protective film right here, it will become even more so. And obviously you cannot put a tempered glass on here because it needs to fold. So that's one of the biggest drawbacks of folding devices, at least in my opinion. Anyway, with this being said, I have nothing more really to say. The negatives and the positives. There's more positives about this device than there is negatives, but obviously the negative right here, if anything happens along the lines of display, you kind of lose the usability of your device altogether, which is a really massive drawback. So I do want for people to consider such a form factor quite heavily, just because it might have bigger repercussions if you damage it. Now anyway, with this being said, if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.